I'm going to tell you that every time.
What are the kids drinking these days? The bullet coffee with the coconut and the ghee and all that. Get this guy one of them. That's what he needs. Every Wednesday, our Hall of Famer Michael Fabiano works through the night. His starts, his sits, his sleepers, and he does it for every single position. You can check it out at NFL.com/start-sit. Babs, we're thinking about a fantasy bonanza.
Yes, sir.
Buffalo points.
Yeah.
The league's two of the top offenses in the league are going to square off Monday night here in L.A. since that game was moved. If Pat Mahomes is your top quarterback of the week, where does Jared Goff fit into that mix?
He's top 5, no doubt about that, and he has played very well over his last several games, 21-plus fantasy points in 3 straight, during which time he's had 8 touchdown passes, just 1 interception, and as you mentioned, this is going to be a high-scoring affair, so start Jared Goff. I'm also starting Carson Wentz, and will also be a high-scoring affair. This one in the Bayou, Wentz has scored 20-plus fantasy points in 5 of his last 6 games, and the Saints have allowed the most fantasy points and a 110 passer rating to quarterbacks in New Orleans this season.
How many buys we got this week, Fabs?
Oh, we got a lot. We got 6.
All right, how many sleepers we got?
We got a lot, but I got one in particular here that I'd like to talk about, and that's Marcus Mariota, who finally looks healthy, and he's put up 20-plus fantasy points in 2 straight games, including 1 game against my beloved Dallas Cowboys. Now he plays the Colts, who gave up over 20 fantasy points to Blake Bortles last week, so Mariota back in the good graces of fantasy fans, Money.
Don't do it, Fabs.
What?
Don't do it.
What?
It's time for your sits. Don't
I know,
do it.
I see. Well,
don't do it.
Kirk Cousins is my first sit at the quarterback position because Kirk Cousins has been a disappointment this season. I mean, he's had fewer than 18 fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games, and he's got to play the Bears. They've allowed an average of fewer than 15 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks, and QBs have an 81 passer rating at Soldier Field, so Cousins is a fade for me, and here is where we're going to disagree. But Phillip Rivers,
he's been too consistent.
He's been consistently mediocre. In fact, over the last several weeks, he scored fewer than 18 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games, and in 7 career home starts against the Broncos, or in his last 7, excuse me, he hasn't scored more than 15 fantasy points. So even with 6 teams on a bye, Phillip Rivers is a little bit of a fade for me, my friend. Apologies now.
And there'll be also apologies later. All right, we shift to the running backs. Babs, let's go to the starts.
Yeah, Deion Lewis, and I get it. He gave you a stinker last week in a revenge game against the Patriots, but it happens. He has still played on 74% of the snaps and averaged over 21 touches since week 7, and the Colts have allowed the most catches per game to running backs since week 7, so Deion Lewis will bounce back. Another bounce-back candidate is Tevin Coleman of the Atlanta Falcons against my Dallas Cowboys. You know, Coleman has averaged 44 snaps and 16 touches over the last 2 weeks. He's seeing red zone opportunities as well, and the Cowboys have allowed the 8th most catches to running backs this season, and Coleman can beat you as a pass catcher, so get him into your lineup.
Ooh, I like this sleeper here, Fabs. I like it.
Dougie Martin, who, you watch the tape, he's actually played pretty well.
He's on the field a lot. Game
script hasn't been favorable for him, but he's played pretty well, and he's got a good matchup against Arizona. They've given up the 2nd most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and Martin's also played in almost 50% of the snaps since week 8, so he's getting opportunities.
All right, how about sits?
This guy, I don't know how to predict this dude anymore.
You can't.
Last week, he's got a great matchup, stink bomb. This week, he's playing the Vikings. They've allowed just 2 rushing touchdowns to running backs this season, right, Money? Howard has averaged 7 fantasy points in games where he hasn't scored a touchdown. So I am fading him this week. I'm also fading Marlon Mack, and I get it. 6 teams on a bye. You probably have to play him. Be smart about it. Just keep this in mind. The Titans have allowed just 1 running back to finish better than 14th in fantasy points this season, and their defense hasn't allowed a rushing touchdown to a running back on the road. So you might have to start Marlon Mack, Money, but you don't have to like it.
You can take back the Phillip Rivers sit right now if you want. Take it back. Take it back. All right.
It's time for ground rankings presented by Fedex. Adam Akbar, which running backs are trending up?
Unbelievable, this guy.
Is he reading? Is he reading?
Can you believe that?
How dare he not only did he pick Phillip Rivers, he usurped money right there, which is totally uncool. But we have identified 4 backs on the rise in recent weeks. And to put it all into context for you, we'll take a swing at projections in standard scoring for each one of them. And Akbar, your first RB on the rise is a nominee for the FedEx Ground Player of the Week, and it is Aaron Jones. What are you seeing out of this guy?
Well, you know, look, this is the first real running back that the Packers have had in a while now. And I mean,
since
you can
Eddie
see,
Lee Ivory.
Yeah, and you can see he's just really dependable. And we heard Cynthia talk about him a little earlier, and she projected him at about 14 points. You know what? And I'm going to give him just about 14 points. I think she gave him 14 point something. I'm just going to give it give it real. 14 points. That's where we're going. I don't do the rounding up. But I can tell you, you can round up and know that he's going to continue to produce. He's going up against a Seahawks defense that is, and this is on Thursday night football. This is primetime football. Yeah. And this is not the same type of Seahawks defense we're accustomed to in the past. I think and suspect that the same type of talent we're going to see in this game.
And you don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a little, upset that somebody's stealing his thunder? Be like, I'm not even going to give you the ball. All right, let's talk about Alex Collins, who probably wasn't trending up in recent weeks, but I really like the trajectory that we're going to see over the next couple of starts for him. And I'm going to go, no. I'm going to go right around. Let's go 10 points.
Are you sure?
Him. Yeah.
All right.
I really like the matchup this week going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. They have been beset by injuries themselves. That's the second time I think I used that word today, and I apologize. I will go back to it was my thesaurus word of the day. So sue me.
I was going to say, I don't know what that word
Sorry,
means.
I'm trying to expand my vernacular. But the Bengals, they're allowing 36 fantasy points to running backs this season. I think that's a pretty good one. What about Derrick
yesterday
Henry?
I used the word truculent, but you know what? I can tell you one thing.
Very nice.
I've been talking about Derrick Henry.
You have been.
I like his style.
Huge,
I like the production
you're a
that
huge
he's had.
mark for
I want you
Derrick
to take a
Henry.
look at my shoes real quick. Can I get
Oh
the camera?
gosh,
Just take a look at these here. You see this right here? These are the 95 Charles Barkley. Yes, I still have the 95 Charles Barkley. And if you add 9 plus 5, right? 9 plus 5 gives you 14. If you add one more, it gives you my shoe size, which is 15. I've got 15 fantasy points for Derrick Henry because he's just been that good. And when you look at the production, he's had 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games. And I know a lot of people think of Derrick Henry and they think of the first 6 games where he had 0 touchdowns. I'm telling you, he's scoring, and he's going up against a horrible defense in the Indianapolis Colts. He's going to have a field day in this game.
Congratulations for once again getting your shoe size into the show.
No, I was just saying 95 Barclays, 9 plus 4 is 14.
These look somewhat nice.
Yeah, okay.
I keep them spotless. All
you
right.
just hate me because I wear size 15.
It's not for that reason. Peyton Barber. You know what? I'm going to give Peyton Barber 11 points this week. Yeah, obviously the Buccaneers have had trouble running the football over the course of the season. I will say we've really never been able to lock in on one guy. I remember a couple of weeks ago where I was expecting Ron Jones to come out, but you look at the production that Barber has been able to put out there over the last couple of weeks. He's getting all of the touches too. He is the #1 running back in an offense that scores a lot of points. And I look at the upcoming schedule. I think there's an opportunity for him to be pretty good for you. I think 11 points in the standard league is not too bad. Money?
Yeah, that was Ground Rankings presented by FedEx. Be sure to vote for the FedEx Air and Ground nominee.